On this episode of the Unnamed Political Podcast, we have guest hosts from both the Reds and the Blues.
Rarely is the question asked, how is our children learning?
My fellow Americans,
corporations are people, my friend.
Our country is in serious trouble.
I never sent any classified material.
Man is not free unless government is limited.
Bringing you opinions on historic, current, and international politics. Welcome to the Unnamed Political Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Unnamed Political Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Orvath.
I'm Clark Wahlberger.
I'm Mike Dufresne.
I'm Colin Duran.
And today we'll be talking about the Democratic debates, our thoughts, and maybe a summary.
Yeah. So as we said, we have both guests from Blue, our moderate Democrat over here, Colin Duran, and resident ginger, Mike Dufresne. He specifically asked us to introduce him as that. All right, so I suppose let's get right into it. As both of you guys said you saw the Democratic national debates.
Yep.
So what were your guys' thoughts, basically, overall?
Well, my biggest takeaway was I feel like Hillary Clinton really came out strong in the debate. She seemed assertive. She seemed relaxed the way she was making jokes. She seemed like she was in control the whole time. It was never... She didn't seem to be reacting, but she seemed to be prepared and ready for it. And I also felt like Bernie Sanders... I was very unimpressed with him.
You were unimpressed?
I was unimpressed.
I was too.
I'm a liberal, but I'm not far left by any standard.
You have stated you don't support Bernie. So would you like to elaborate to the audience why you support Hillary, but unlike most millennials, you aren't, let's go all the way to Bernie?
No, my problem with Bernie is I feel like he's too far left. I know one of his biggest knocks was that he was a socialist, and I know that during the debate he cleared that up by saying that he was a democratic socialist. That was a very good save. I will give him credit on that one. That was a very good save. But
it's not the same thing. But kind of it is.
Yeah. But my problem with it is that my biggest problem is his deal with free college tuition and then giving it this name of free college, which are two very different things. Free college tuition is just free college tuition. It doesn't account for fees, room and board, books, any of those other commodities. And I feel like, one, he's misleading in that sense, and two, I think that's kind of unrealistic. I think our taxes would be way too high for that to happen. Of course, I support, taxes that are going back into social funds, but...
Okay. So it was very good. So we had our guest host, Mike, just had to step out. He'll be back in a moment. But so, obviously, you're a Hillary supporter. Would you care to elaborate on why you support Hilldog?
Yeah.
We don't mean that in an offensive way. It's a long story. We'll explain at a later date.
My biggest thing about her is I feel like her, I like her economic strategies and ideas going into it. I really like the way she wants to change the tax code by taking more from the upper class to help narrow the gap between the middle and the upper class. And also I feel like her foreign affairs policy is very strong. Her work as Secretary of State I think is kind of undervalued, underrated.
We honestly have disagreeing opinions on this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the things that people forget is that the Secretary of State only has so much control. A lot of it is under the...
Well, I feel they only have so much control, but I feel with the control she has, they're debatably the second most important person in terms of America's international presence in the world. I feel like she could have done so much more that she didn't do. So what would you say is her biggest accomplishment?
Her biggest thing, I think, was keeping us in good relations with a lot of countries during the Arab Spring. I feel like that's overlooked.
I feel like...
Can I add on to what you said previously?
Which point specifically?
Her foreign policy issues.
Yes.
I think the countries that, when she stepped into office, the most important countries that she had to make amends with was like Iran, Pakistan, and North Korea, maybe Cuba. But by the time she left office, her relations with those countries had been the same, and not much in the countries had changed.
We didn't exactly keep peaceful relations. We allowed radical Islam to fill the power void that was left by... So you've been a clear...
In which countries, though?
In Libya. So you've been a clear proponent of having... So you disagree with the Iraq War, which we're going to address later. So you feel we should have had Saddam Hussein stay in power. I'm assuming you extend that to Muammar Gaddafi?
No, not to Gaddafi. And can I change what I said about Saddam?
By all
Sure.
means.
Go ahead.
I think that taking him out was a good idea, but I think
It
that we
was.
didn't have enough control over the region at the time, and it wasn't stable enough for us to do that. I think we should have had a better plan going into it. I feel like that
So you
decision...
support the war, though? You support invading Iraq?
At the time,
At the time, yes, but I think that the way we did it was... I think we didn't handle it correctly.
So I'll agree with that. We've said we feel that the pulling out strategy was just terrible.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that was during Hillary's tenure as Secretary of State. Which
That's
is
true,
one of the-
but again,
she obviously isn't the commander in chief.
yes,
But
that's something that she has very little control over, and I think that's kind of overlooked. But I kind of want to go back to the Arab Spring. We're still we could be in worse conditions with Libya, with Egypt, two countries that saw major turnover in power.
Well, I feel we could always be in worse condition with any country, but I feel
Right,
like we'd be
but-
in so much better conditions, and if we had a stronger secretary who was willing to do more in those areas, we could have, possibly had governments that wouldn't have had the power voids been filled with radical Islam, particularly in Libya, and we also wouldn't have had as many issues. I don't want to get into Benghazi or things like that, because that's just way overworked. But,
yeah, Benghazi is too complicated to... I mean, there's so many factors.
But I feel with issues like that, if she had or if we had any Secretary of State who had done more, we wouldn't have had the massive power voids that we have there. And now, unfortunately, it seems like the only really solution to taking care of radical Islam is having to put more troops in those areas, which nobody really wants to have to see happen.
I think one of the things, and it's true that radical Islam has taken over, especially in Libya, but we haven't been seeing a lot of. I don't know how I want to phrase this.
Hi, we're back. Sorry for that abrupt cutoff. Unfortunately, Mike had to go home due to, I'm not sure, he had to leave,
he's
unfortunately.
bowling.
It's bowling, that's right.
Bowling?
Bowling with
Okay.
his friends.
Apparently it's more important than
You'll be missed.
Then
more
the political state of
than-
America.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Okay.
No, don't worry, Mike. We'd love to have you back at some point. All right, so I suppose we were discussing the Libyan crisis, Arab Spring.
Yes, the Arab Spring.
So you support U.S. intervention, but because you think that what we did was good because we aren't as hated as we could have been had we not intervened.
Yes, I do. I think we handled that well.
We've seen because our intervention led to undermining some governments that were not as large of a threat to the U.S. interest as radical Islam is. Radical Islam is a threat to anyone's interests other than radical Islam's.
Well, going back to Libya, I want to touch on this. We see the backlash that we get from Iran and the Iranian people, which is partially based on the
This is
the
gone
events
from
that
Democrat
we've-
debates to mainly Hillary.
Yeah.
We will get back to the debates in a moment. As soon as we wrap this up.
But we've seen how we've intervened in Iran or in Iran for years, and we see the backlash that
The Iran
country is
from.
Yes.
Well, we haven't exactly intervened in Iran in the same way that we've intervened. Sorry.
Yeah.
Intervened in other countries, but Iraq, clear example. I mean, we
True.
haven't invaded.
True,
Iran.
but we've meddled in affairs that we shouldn't have been in. That
So you think we should have left the Iranian people to themselves?
yes.
So I'm saying that, but when you have such a do you think we should have left the hostages there during?
No.
the crisis?
Well, those are two different things. No, but if you look at the history of the region, ever since the rise of Islam, it's been kind of a power grab for religious dominance: Sunnis, Shiites, Kurds, and I think one of the things is that when we intervene, we don't understand the culture and really the history behind what goes
But I
on
also
in those
feel that
nations.
Hillary hasn't understood that as well, and the interventions that she has taken have not paid attention to that, and the interventions that she hasn't taken have said just as much as the action she has taken.
That's true.
I'm not an expert on the Arab Spring.
It was basically a series of
Revolutions
in countries that overthrew dictators.
But I think that we don't have a leader that understands that. I think that goes.
So,
to
but you
both
think
parties.
Hillary would be that leader that would understand it?
No. But I think that her time working as Secretary of State
Gives her the best. You think that gives her the
is
best?
very beneficial. Yes.
So actually, I feel unfortunately that I think it shows that she doesn't have a success record. Like I'm not saying that we have a clear person who I think on the Republican side or on the Democrats who I think is better poised for it at the moment. Based on it, but I just feel Hillary, she has shown that she has a bad track record, whereas almost all the other candidates with the exception of the possible Joe Biden, and I feel Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump have kind of shown they don't have wouldn't be great for us internationally.
Well, I have to disagree with you on, I think you were saying that she wasn't a very good Secretary of State, and again, I do feel like she did a very good job in keeping us in good relations with a lot of countries where we could have very well been hated a lot more than we are, but also none of the other candidates have been in a position where they can show their views on foreign affairs and actually put them into action like Hillary Clinton has. There's no other.
But when she's put her things into action, we've had issues there, and now she's stating though.
Can you give me an example?
With intervention in Egypt and Libya, when you're saying, and now she's stating in the debate, she stated she does not want to put U.S. troops into Iraq in any way, not even special forces, but wants to have Arabs die for deciding to pull out of Iraq when she did. She's now killing Arabs for conflicts that she is very heavily responsible for.
Well, I agree with her that we should not be putting boots on the ground in Iraq.
Well, I don't think we should be putting boots on, but I think we should be deploying the whole army, but I think that we need to have a presence, especially if you want to keep talking about international affairs, to combat now the threat of Russia filling the power vacuum by an absent America.
And here's the thing, I think that the presence of Russia in that area should be even more of a signal to us that we shouldn't be there. I think
if we're just backing off from there, that's exactly what basically we did to Russia during the Cold War. Now Russia's winning, basically.
I don't think they're winning. I think we're letting them fight their own fights. This is something that we honestly don't need to be involved in. We're not.
But if we are involved in it, now Syria, not Syria. Now Russia's going to be the dominant power in Syria, by extension the Middle East. It's the same thing in the South China Sea.
They may be dominant. They may be dominant in Syria, but we're also in very good terms with Israel. Israel is a major power.
Yes, but we're now seeing with Russia, we've shown them, like we've said, Russia comes in, they're going to say we're just going to bomb ISIS. Now they're bombing American-supported bases, and they're propping up a dictator that is literally gassing his own people.
That's true, but let me ask you this. Do you think that we should be engaging in conflicts where we could be in the position where we're essentially fighting Russia? Do you think that this is a good decision for us?
To be fighting Russia?
I know
I don't think we should ever
it's more of a true, but of course it's more of a proxy war. But do you think that we should be back in that position, like in the Cold War, like with the Korean War?
Well, I feel if the U.S. if we're willing to tell Russia, the only problem I see with that though is if we're saying we're going to avoid it at all costs. Vladimir Putin, he has the guts. He's going to step in and take the initiative in those scenarios. And if we don't also take the initiative, he's just going to continue to walk over us. We need to be able to stand there and say, here's our line, don't cross it, and basically, we need to be tough. We can't just say, here's our line, don't cross it, then when he gets close, we're going to back up.
That's true. Keep doing that. That's true, but I don't think we really have a theoretical line in Iraq. I think with Iraq,
it's not actually Iraq, because ISIS is Islamic State of Iraq and Syria.
Yes, but you know what I'm saying, because right now he's supporting Assad, and I don't think we really have a strong presence there, and I don't think we should be establishing a strong presence there at this time.
Well, if we don't, then we're just going to have Russia with an extremely strong presence there, with a dictator who
I just don't.
The worst dictator aside from, I'd say, Kim Jong-un at the moment.
That's true, but I don't see any. I just can't see Russia. I can't see Russia doing anything too big in Iraq. I can see them, supporting Assad.
So far, Russia hasn't contributed troops to Iraq. They're solely because that's the part. They're saying we're going to attack ISIS. But they aren't going to go into Iraq because they're only going to want Assad in power because they're now just attack. They say, "Oh, we aren't going to attack your U.S. supported guys." Then they do.
Yeah, and these airstrikes have been just.
I apologize for not getting the debates, but this has been. I hope you find this interesting. We will get to the debates, but right now, this debate on Hillary, this has been quite interesting. So you're saying about airstrikes?
Yeah. So with the airstrikes, of course, they've been sketchy to say the least, considering.
The U.S. airstrikes or the Russian?
No, the Russian airstrikes. As they have been around the areas of rebels. But
also we've seen Russian airstrikes. They aren't even that accurate. They've just hit Iran.
Well, right. But,
that's true.
But the thing is, I think that we would be causing more problems by intervening in an area that, one, we don't have a strong presence in. Two, we don't have a strong interest in being in, considering the people there are not supportive of our nation. So going in there and.
Well, I think if we go in there and we handle it well, we can hopefully get them to be more
supportive.
And by overthrowing a regime that's brutally, not only Assad, but ISIS, two regimes that are killing their own people and also killing Americans.
But did we not say that with Iraq?
What do you mean by say what?
When we invaded back in 2003. Yeah. You know, it's the same thing.
I think the problem is we didn't. This is one of my big criticisms of the war is we didn't handle it as well, and we didn't take as much knowledge. And what we needed to do is we needed to pull out with a stable regime and kind of basically aid the Iraqis in establishing a government that allowed them to have a stable nation, which I feel is one of Hillary's bigger failures, and not to a lesser extent, but and also President Obama's.
Yes, I think that's more on President Obama. Again, I'd like to reiterate the point that the Secretary of State actually doesn't have a lot of power.
But if she doesn't have a lot of power, how can that be a good track record for if she's going to be president?
Because what she does is she establishes relationships with people there because it's all FaceTime. When you're working with these people, you're establishing
But she's been going to her record. She's been pointing to that throughout the debate. She's been pointing
That's true.
But she has a poor record. But how can you argue
what
that?
I'm saying is that it's like. What I'm saying is that she's given areas that she needs to, countries that she needs to work with as a guideline, and the things that we need done there by the president or another higher power, and it's her job then to figure out the tiny details. So you know what I'm saying? So if she's not,
she only has experience in managing the tiny details as president, where you need to manage everything. If she's done bad in the details, how can she be good in the big picture?
Because she constantly sees the big picture. Because she's the one who's...
But we've seen clearly from her examples of the big picture, the world's not a better place after her tenure.
No, it's the same.
No, but can you...
No, I'd say
it's not worse. Yeah, exactly.
It's not worse.
Jack, this has been a debate between us. Would you care to interject?
Yeah. No way. I'm not an expert on the Arab Spring at all.
Okay, we'll try to wrap this up then, because that's coming out of
But I'd like to make one more point on the on our intervention in Iraq. Iraq and Syria.
We're going to address that more to extent later, but continue.
But I'd like to kind of make this final point is that our intervention there would be unnecessary. We're not
re-intervening would be unnecessary.
Because what we were saying before was that we kind of did the same thing when we invaded Iraq in 2003. We didn't have a solid plan. We didn't essentially need to go in at the time because we didn't have. Because honestly,
we didn't need to go in with a plan though.
Exactly.
If we get a plan, would you support going in then? If we had
and here's why.
So no matter what the plan is, you don't support going
in.
Because the stakes are too high this time. Last time we were just fighting Saddam and his regime. This time we're fighting ISIS. We're fighting essentially the Russians.
We are fighting the Russians, and ideally, but I think here's the problem.
You know what I'm saying.
But I think the stakes of America's future can never be too high. You can't say the future of America. There can't be stakes too high for that. America can't be willing to back down because it's too tough. That's not what America is. That's not what America is built on. We don't say the stakes are too high. We say we're going to meet those stakes. We're going to break them. We're going to keep going.
The question is, how high are you willing to go without threatening the protection and the safety of the people?
Well, because I don't think we're threatened, because clearly...
Of our people, I mean.
Of our people? Well, because again, we are going in there and going to be declaring war on Russia and saying, we're starting bombing you guys.
Right.
But we're going in there and we need to say, we're here, we're back, we're tough. I think whoever the new president is, it's going to be a tough first term if they can even...
Yes.
It's going to be a tough first 2 years, I'd say, just saying, because President Obama's been absent in terms of foreign policy, and they need to get back in there and say, we're back.
Except the Iran deal.
Well, we'll definitely be addressing that in a later video, and that's something we feel
I talked about that today.
So yeah, we would like to talk about that once we're done with the debates. But speaking of the debates,
the debates,
it's something we can get back to, Jack. So
what your thoughts on the
debates?
I thought Hillary Clinton presented herself well.
I
think she did okay in the debates, but that does not come without a certain amount of flubs that she had. Like for example, when she said, "I represented Wall Street," Republicans are going to use that in so many attack ads. It's going to be insane. And I feel like the only reason that she said that she was going to be different from Obama is that she was a woman, which pretty much reinforced the idea of Obama's third term being a legitimate thing. Because literally all she said is, "How are you going to be different from Obama?"
I don't think that's true though.
No, so you don't think she's a woman?
No,
that's a lie.
I think she's bluffing. No, I think she distinguished herself from President Obama. I think it wasn't just because of her gender.
So I think we've been too Hillary-centric on this. So
yeah, let's move on.
So let's talk about. Let's not just. So which one of those three other guys who nobody cares about? So I personally think that I enjoy Jim Webb. And I definitely think Martin O'Malley's numbers, they aren't gonna exactly go up at all, but he was probably the strongest out of the three.
Yes,
by
I
far.
certainly believe that.
And he was finally able to get his name out. He's like, hey, there's more than just Bernie and Hillary running.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And I think for me, when I was trying to rank delegates, or I'm sorry, not delegates, politicians, in my head I was thinking, Hillary first. I put O'Malley second because I felt like...
You think O'Malley's... Since you're not... You think...
I like him better than Bernie Sanders. I felt like during the debate, Bernie Sanders seemed to be reiterating points that he had made. I felt like he was very repetitive with what he said. He kept on coming back to... it's slipping my mind right now. But he kept on coming back to this one main point. He kept on coming back to the middle class and trying to boost the middle class. And of course, that's a big issue, and it should be. It really should be.
Well, so you disagree. So this is one of the things I was interested in. So you support Hillary because you feel her tax policy is good with reappropriating wealth, basically redistributing the wealth. But you think Bernie's, whose whole policy is literally just that on steroids, is too, like, at what point do you think it's too far?
His idea, I felt like the ideas that he was presenting was too much. The taxes that he was suggesting that he would be adding on to the upper class, I felt like was too much. So
you think at that point there's too much?
Yes, because I think there's a point where of course you've earned your money. I know Republicans like to say that why should I be punished for the money I've earned, for building wealth or a high economic status, and I do agree with that.
But you support Hillary's though of saying we're still going to take like as much as a chunk of your funds.
Let me finish with that. But I think it is our responsibility to be giving back to those who are born into impoverished communities and families, those who are stuck in the poverty cycle, which I feel like politicians don't understand. And I think that's why we still have people on welfare, because we don't understand why people won't get jobs, or can't get jobs, rather be.
So I think the way to support the middle class isn't by taking money away, by making a larger middle class, by just taking money away from those who are more wealthy, and just kind of throwing it at them, but by providing, I believe it was
by providing services.
Ronald Ray. I don't believe for. I think the best form of welfare is a job, and trying to invest in businesses and allowing businesses to grow to allow for creating jobs, rather than basically having more people either work for the government or by just putting more people on welfare.
That's true. People should be getting jobs, but that's so easy to say.
Well, I think we should be getting jobs by, in my opinion, we obviously have different degrees, is by limiting taxes on businesses, allowing businesses to grow, basically limiting, taking government farther out of it. The government's job is not to help people not run their lives.
That's true, but let me say this though. I'm sorry, Jack. I feel like
that's all right.
Like you haven't got the much.
I'm so sorry.
But I feel as though we make it seem so easy to get a job. A lot of these people in low-income areas are stuck. We value having an education very highly, which it should be, but we've raised it to the point where people can't get
education.
Well, you need it, and that people can't get good-paying jobs without having an education. We see these areas, low-income, where they're not very good school systems, and kids
start investing in education.
Not education. I think the minimum wage should be raised.
You think so?
Can I finish what I was saying about the poverty though? Because it's kind of a longer spiel, but it's very important to hear. So these kids are coming up in areas where they don't in families that are broken essentially.
So what do you mean by the families are broken?
People are always
single parents.
It might be single parent households. It might be households where parents maybe addicted to drugs or alcohol, or they aren't present often. And the problem is they don't have a strong disciplinary figure. They don't stay in school as a result. And then when they try and they can't get a job because we put education on this pedestal where if you don't have an education, you can't get a well-paying job or a good-paying job.
But you support raising the minimum wage, though.
Wait, let me finish.
Oh, okay.
So now we put people in minimum wage jobs. The problem is you can't live off of minimum wage. So these people can't build themselves up. They can't finish an education because they're too busy balancing other parts of their life. They may have a kid, or they may have a child.
Minimum wage too, though.
Well, what New York did, I thought was $15 is a lot. I would put it somewhere in between 12 and 14. 13, but some are 12, 13, 14. I feel like somewhere in there. And the reason why is a lot of these people who worked on minimum wage at, what is it here in Connecticut, 9?
Don't quote me on this. I actually should know this because I'm going to be entering the working age in about 2 weeks, so I should start looking this up.
$9.15.
All right.
You can't live on that, and people are often working multiple jobs. So
Well, another thing, a minimum wage, but I feel if you raise the minimum wage, you have the problem of then you simply can't have as many jobs, which you need.
Yeah.
If you're complaining
You
like,
can't
oh,
afford
we have
to
massive
pay other people.
unemployment, when you have this, you can't say, okay, we're gonna limit unemployment by making it more difficult for businesses to create jobs.
well, there's an easy solution to that. It's just raising prices.
But then if you're raising
Then
prices,
people
then you
aren't
have
gonna buy
to,
the
but if you're
price.
saying people
Yes.
can't, but if people can't afford to live off a minimum wage, raising prices is just going to say that
Raising-
minimum wage is gonna not buy. Is
Well,
gonna
I'm
buy
saying
less.
in goods. In goods, I mean. I'm not talking about the real estate business. But I'm talking about companies like McDonald's. If you raise your $1 meal to $1.50, if you're raising your burger that costs $3.50 to $4.50.
But are you going to then go
That's
and
practical.
dictate to companies you need to now start raising your price?
No, it's just it's the logical
companies
thing.
aren't. But the thing is, though, companies aren't charities. A company's job is to
make money.
generate money. Basically.
But the company isn't going to make money without their entry level job.
But the
or
thing is, though, the
entry-level
cheapest thing to
employees.
do, though, it would just be to say, fine, if you're going to raise it to $15, we're just going to have one guy have to do twice as much work in order to do it. Businesses are just going to cut jobs.
That's true, but we haven't seen that yet. We haven't.
Well, but that's because we haven't raised it yet.
Exactly.
But
Right.
I feel we're getting a little too much of this. We're going to discuss this.
Oh.
Let's get back. I'm sorry. The problem is we introduced this as a debate episode.
Yeah.
And I don't want us to then it be totally off.
Who knows?
So,
Just
and
blame
also, we've just
everything.
been screwing Jack over
It's
here.
alright.
Feel
It's
bad for
alright.
Lincoln
Jack.
Chafee, you have an article about
Lincoln
that.
Chafee did. I think we can all agree. Did he do the worst? I think he did
Hands
the worst.
down.
He made no input.
The blocking grant
screwed up.
remark, I think that, if anything killed a campaign, that killed a campaign.
I think it was dropped out by the next debate.
He used to be a Republican. To start off, he used to be a Republican, switched over to an independent recently, and then
Yeah.
recently became a Democrat. He has a terrible record in the beginning of the Senate. Basically, his mentality was, since everyone was voting for the Patriot Act, I should too, and that's what he did. And for the Glass-Steagall Act, which was, I think it was something about banks, like increasing the power of banks, he voted for that, and his excuse was, my dad died, and I just got into the Senate, and that's why I
That
did
was
this.
that was
kept
really-
repeating
And that
the
just screwed him
violence.
up.
I feel like when he said that, it showed that he's not.
Are we going to let emotion override?
Yes, it's and you know it's
I
it makes
clearly
sense that
feel
people
bad
would
for him. He'd be a
have
little bit
grief,
off.
but
He
but I
should
think-
have been trying. He shouldn't have just kept going back to that. He should have had a better response. to
Yeah,
that.
if I want you to be president, I want to know that even during tough times, you're at least you're not gonna make rational decisions. You're either going to say, I have to abstain from this right now. I can't make a
Can you
decision.
understand this out?
I'm not
Oh,
sure.
that's true.
I don't believe you can.
I don't think you can. It's either
No.
yay or nay.
Well, but yeah.
But,
So
but you know what I'm saying. I feel
in
like you
hindsight,
shouldn't be
I
making
think
these-
that should have been. But I just think I can completely understand it. But I do think when you're in elected office, we hold you to a bit of a higher standard.
Yes, definitely.
So with,
I feel like one more thing. This is about Hillary, and this is just about the debate. I thought
yeah, we've gone way too off.
I know when Bernie Sanders when they started talking about gun control, I felt like she really got Bernie Sanders, and I feel
She
like
got Bernie because Bernie
Bernie's kinda-
is
he's kinda weak,
surprisingly
yeah.
conservative in terms of guns.
Well, he sounded, as Jack said, he sounded weak.
And
He
then,
sounded like
he
he
never
was-
provided his own strategy. He basically
No.
just kind of just said we need to do stuff, but he didn't. Because I mean, liberals they're all into very much. We need to do this, X, X, and X. He just kind of said do things, and I think that was definitely a bit. That was just she was just waiting for the opportunity. And
Yes, and I feel like she took
I feel like using the
she took
gun
very
just took
advantage of
clear
that.
aim and
Yeah.
just took him out.
Because what he did essentially was he kind of came out and basically said I kind of appeased the higher powers. I appeased the NRA,
Yeah.
and honestly, I have no respect for the NRA. I'm
That's
not.
your opinion.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not very. I'm
I mean,
not
neither
far
of us
left on gun
are
control.
ridiculously
No.
far
I'm-
right on gun.
I'll say this though. I think that assault rifles should be banned. I'm not saying that all weapons should be banned. I certainly don't agree with that at all. But I think that if I'm going to vote for someone from a Democratic, well, I'm a Democrat. So from that
Well,
standpoint,
technically you're not yet. We're all
technically-
kids.
Technically.
but I think from that standpoint, he kind of said, I don't know, I don't want to deal with that. If I'm going to elect someone, I want someone who's going to stand up to these big gun companies.
So, but standing up to the gun company, because the gun companies don't dictate the laws exactly.
No.
Well, right, but you know, they
So
have
the
a lot
gun
of control with the NRA.
The
gun
gun
lobbyists.
lobbyists, yeah.
And
With guns, we haven't really discussed guns. That just means
No.
it's been a very touchy subject.
yeah.
And we just tried. So we obviously have differing things. And,
Yeah.
But so just to what you said, you stated that you're clearly a Democrat. And so me and Jack, we prefer. Jack, you more identify as directly as a Republican. I prefer to say center-right independent, I suppose. More typically, I would align with the majority of what Republicans say, but also with some things Democrats say. But just basically, so I don't want to, because I'm still a kid, so I do it. But so you fully already say you support the Democratic
Yes,
Party.
I support the Democratic Party. There are some things I'd say I'm definitely not far left. I'm more of a moderate. I will say that. But yeah, I certainly support the Democratic Party partially because of their social beliefs. It's the a perfect blend would be the fiscal views of the Republican Party for me and the
So you're
social
more, but
views.
for fiscally conservative, you want to raise taxes on the wealthy and the minimum wage.
Yes.
That's not exactly.
That's not fiscally
I know
conservative.
that's true. But those are my two liberal viewpoints.
But I mean, what fiscally conservative
Views do you have
if you support those are like.
I think there should be less.
majority.
I think there should be less government control over companies.
Okay.
That's fair.
I know minimum wage kind of intrudes on that, but I think that's also kind of a social issue because a lot of people working in minimum wage jobs are in low income areas and have those problems.
So an interesting point that you mentioned that you consider to be more fiscally conservative. Another candidate who claims to be very fiscally conservative, but with also holding similar research, Donald Trump, who he got mentioned. He is actually in virtually every single issue, with the exception of immigration.
Yeah.
He's for almost all he could run as a Democrat if it weren't for immigration.
True.
I just the Donald. I am. Oh man, why?
Why is he running?
Why?
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
Please come on our show.
no. My problem with Donald Trump is really his immigration. I found it actually kind of offending what he said about immigrants.
He said illegal immigrants.
Illegal immigrants. Okay, I'm sorry. Still, I feel like what
People
say.
the media portrays it that he said all.
Sorry, the camera battery died. We're back. So we were talking about immigration. So I was saying we don't exactly know the exact moment when it cut out, but when we were discussing immigration, we were saying me and Jack are both pro-immigration.
Definitely, I think we all are. Immigration.
We're all descendants of immigrants. I'm assuming.
Yes,
none of us here.
And I know a lot of my dad's friends are Mexican immigrants from we live in California, so naturally I find it.
For time. And my parents both grew up in California in that whole area. So clearly it's not like it's not an issue. We aren't we live in Connecticut, so we aren't exactly surrounded by it all the time.
No.
So clearly we can't say we totally know everything about it. But I'm pro-immigration. So you're pro-amnesty, I'm assuming.
Yes, and I think
100% amnesty.
yes.
Okay, so that's
Because
Jack, you care to?
Well, to get to the specific parts of immigration, I would really like to talk about birthright citizenship and the purpose of the law in the first place.
So we have discussed that before.
We have discussed it a little bit. I want to hear what Colin wants to say about birthright citizenship.
I know the meaning of it doesn't exactly correlate or it doesn't transcend the centuries. But this is kind of a little sidebar. If we want to say that, then it works the same way with the Second Amendment.
It's an outdated law.
Not that it's an outdated law, but what it says
Do you think what it says? So, but you've stated that you don't think all weapons should be taken away.
No, I'm not saying that. I think that the Second Amendment should be revised to specifically. And here's what I'm saying: revised in a way that it explicitly says either you have the right to a gun, or you have the right to a certain type of gun, or I think it needs to be more specific. It's the amendment itself is outdated, and I feel as though that is causing most of the controversy around the issue. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, I think though the argument that Republicans and more conservatives would give you is just the fact that when you look at the again, we try to stay away too much from gun control, but gun control, or not gun control, the Second Amendment was written with stating the right of the citizens to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, whereas birthright citizenship was intended
within a well-regulated
to, but basically where but the well-regulated militia, it doesn't necessarily state that it has to be a government run. But
Well, exactly.
we won't get into that debate. But,
Exactly. That's the point. Do you know what I'm saying? Is that
But let's.
It's a
I'm
interpretation.
just
Gray
trying to-
area.
It is a gray. It's definitely a gray area, and that is the whole debate.
Yeah.
But with birthright citizenship, that was written specifically with the intention of preventing
For slaves.
discrimination against recently freed slaves.
Yeah.
And basically, because they could at the time were being denied the right to be citizens because like technically you weren't citizens
a
because
citizen in the
you
first
went
place.
from being property to now being a person. At no point did you immigrate on this. They just said,
Right.
now if you're born here,
Right.
you're. But now clearly that's an issue that has completely disappeared, mainly because it was 150 years ago. So
yes, and I do think that that it shouldn't apply right now to immigrants. I think there should be a law saying that immigrants born in America are given citizenship. But as long as that's not in place, I feel like because that amendment was specifically created for that instance, and kind of and it says that. Am I correct? I haven't read
the exact text of it.
I haven't read it on the 14th.
I suppose, but basically so those are our stances on our legal or illegal immigration. We're all pro legal immigration. We have different stances on illegal immigration.
And
back to sorry, if you want to continue.
And here's the thing about immigration is that a lot of people that are immigrating to America, we talk about how they're taking jobs, and I think that's it's not a very strong argument because you're seeing a lot of these people are working
jobs there as well.
$2 an hour at best, and it's all physical labor, and we see that it's a very hard working group of people that come to America, and I think that we've kind of vilified them instead of actually understanding why they're there and how we can actually help them.
Well, I think that's definitely what we need to do. I think, though, we need to help them become citizens legally. Because, again, an interesting point I felt, and I think, Jack, actually one point that Marco Rubio made in the first debate was he, getting calls from his office of the people who have waited in line for so long to legally come to the U.S. are now getting screwed over because we're just saying, well, thank you for waiting so long, but you're still not going to get to come in legally. Meanwhile, if you had just jumped over the border or swam or whatever, you could have been a citizen the whole time.
And here's the thing, I think it's kind of a weird predicament because we have a lot of people unemployed and we don't have enough people managing immigration. Something seems wrong with that.
We have too many, what exactly do you mean?
Well,
because some people would claim that unemployment is due to the fact that many of the jobs Americans would be taking are currently occupied by
and I don't think that's a very valid argument because a lot of these people are working labor-intensive work for small amounts of pay, not even way below minimum wage. So it's not really you're really not taking any jobs that are creating much income. But what I was saying was that we have immigrants are getting bogged down in bureaucratic paperwork and can't become U.S. citizens. And then part of that is we don't have enough people. Well, no, I think we need more people working on making them citizens or not making them citizens. Do you know what I mean?
So you think we need to expand basically?
Yes.
Just we set up a department of specifically for Hispanic immigration or something.
Yeah.
So, but that is interesting because that is actually similar to I suppose Jeb Bush's policy because Jeb Bush supports. He wants to kind of make it easier. So I'm willing to support that. I think definitely we should make it easier for people to become citizens of the U.S.
Yeah.
We shouldn't make it ridiculous because with Donald Trump's plan to deport every single person, currently you
That's
can't
impossible.
do that. I'm not saying I love that to be possible, but it's just because every single person gets due process, and people have said though. It's the same argument. So this obviously doesn't apply to you, but for people who are saying, "Oh, we're going to take away every single gun," it's going to be just as hard.
It's too much.
It's arguments like that we can't do. But back to the debates, because Jack, you've got a ton of stuff, and we might just include mainly this part as the debate, and include the rest as just the Clark Wall Group call-in interview.
Sweet. So, I'm just going to go back to the losers of the debate. I think that's fair.
So Lincoln just got.
So yeah, Lincoln Chafee got destroyed. I think
got rolled over.
He said when Anderson Cooper was talking about, well, why did you switch from party to party? And he's like, the
I've been a
positions
block of
changed.
granite on all the issues.
Then why did you change your party? And I think that was a major
very soft
blow to
block
him.
of granite.
And when he said that I didn't change parties, the Republican Party changed on that.
The thug life chose me.
So you, Jack, though, you said you were very impressed with Jim Webb.
I liked his positions. He stumbled more than I think almost any other candidate besides Lincoln Chafee. Lincoln Chafee obviously
Yeah.
the worst.
Well,
but
I think he also had the issue of focusing too much on not getting enough time.
I really thought Jim Webb was like a traditional Democrat though.
You
Like,
thought-
not like not like all the other ones that have gone way out
So
of
what
proportion.
do you mean?
I don't
obviously
think
you're
they've
from
gone
like
out of
60s,
proportion.
50s, 60s Democrats.
Yeah.
70s, yeah, somewhere around there.
Above pre.
But not like pre-Carter.
Pre-Carter.
Crazy Democrats.
Okay, I can see that.
I want to consider Clinton a crazy Democrat.
I think she has to act like she was a
Which
crazy
Clinton are you
Democrat.
referring to?
Hillary, right?
Hillary. Because I feel like as the with the redistricting of the nation, where you're essentially voting for the most conservative or most liberal candidate.
So I think that is one of the
I think that's the
we need
problem.
to create a
It's not
Party
more
lines have
modern
been
environment.
split.
Yes.
We've been so partisan. Like, I mean, when you think, like Reagan, there were Reagan Democrats. People were willing to say, I'm a Democrat, but I support the Republican president. We need to kind of create an environment where that's not, where compromise isn't viewed as weakness, it's viewed as...
Yeah, I find it a shame when we hear candidates saying that I'm going to stand up to our party's true.
Well, I think
True
that
values.
standing up is a big thing, and not being willing to, here's what I'm saying. Compromise, I think, is a tricky word because it can be used in either saying compromise working together or compromise, like I guess you could say, oh, something's been compromised, it's damaged, it's no longer...
Yeah, that's true.
We need a new word, so people, whoever makes the words, come up with a new one. Sorry, but we basically need to try to say, you need to be willing to stand for issues, but you also need to be willing to say, if I'm only going to fight for this one issue and I'm never going to listen to anything else, then you're not going to get if you're in Congress, like, I think Congress has kind of gotten an unfair rap. Jack, you agree?
I can agree with that, yeah. They've been the party lines have been more divided the past 15 years than ever. Like you were saying, and I think that Hillary Clinton has gone more left than, because Bill Clinton was, I
Well, I think
consider
she's
him
gone
very
left to combat
moderate.
Bernie.
Yeah, exactly, and she feels like she has to.
I think
Vote
so.
on
In the
left.
very first thing, because like Bernie goes and says his policy, and then Hillary says, "I support. I'll do that. I'll do the same thing."
Because she wants to try to appeal
I
to
think
all
because
of-
she's really
Yeah,
like she's
but I think
losing
that's
so
mostly-
many youth vote and just all sorts of so many of her people who are like, oh, those people are guaranteed lock-ins for Hillary.
But
They're
here's the
now-
thing, I think she's doing that partially to win the Democratic nomination.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
that I
And then-
honestly believe that if
she will
candidates-
switch back over.
Yes,
she's
I think
gonna
that.
flip-flop
But do you
a lot.
support
She
do you
already
support a
has.
candidate who flip flops? Because that was one of the big
Not-
criticisms
not-
about Trump.
and John.
Not
John
flip-flopping. Can I specify? I think this is something that happens to conservatives and liberals.
I agree.
Have you ever have you ever seen the Saturday Night Live skit? I believe it was with don't quote me on this, but I think somebody, if you can look it up, it's very funny. Where you have all the people who played the presidents,
Oh,
and you
yeah,
have
yeah,
Will
I saw
Ferrell
that.
as George Bush,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh, you just got the nomination. All right, you gotta do the like shimmy shimmy dance. Back you were on the right, now you gotta get back on the right, now you gotta get back to the center. You gotta get in."
Yeah, and I think that certainly applies today. I think
Terrible impression.
but I think that's not just Hillary. I think that's going to be
it's
the
Well, I think
almost every
we're going to see
it's going to be the Republican candidate.
And that's the problem with being so partisan. You need to basically,
Right.
you need to either be Bernie or Donald to get the
Exactly.
nomination, and then you're going to need to try
Go
to
back
become
to
a
the center.
centrist, and it makes you lose faith in everything overall because you're saying, oh, if they're just, are they just doing this to get more votes?
Yeah.
And I guess that's, so with people who probably aren't going to get a lot of votes, how do you think about Martin O'Malley, Jack?
I think Martin O'Malley, I like how he talks. I like how he presented himself. I think he presented himself very well. But Hillary Clinton kind of wrecked him a lot when he's like, oh, but you supported me in 2008. And then it was like, well, then why are you running if you support almost everything Hillary Clinton agrees with? And also, I don't think Martin O'Malley... Was Martin O'Malley governor or had anything affiliated with Maryland during
He was.
the Baltimore riots?
Yes.
During the Baltimore riots specifically?
Yeah.
Well,
Or in general.
I know he was
He was involved there.
Was he the governor
Is he
of
first
Maryland?
Governor of
That's
Maryland,
right.
and he was the mayor of Baltimore.
And he was the
once.
mayor of Baltimore. I'm just not
That
sure.
wasn't when that was going on.
And we're not looking it up.
But just another little thing. I'm looking at the polls now.
He was the 61st governor of Maryland from 2007, and I believe he still is this year. Or he may have just left office
Let
in
me
January.
check.
The newest polls are
January
very-
21st.
Yeah.
So so I predicted this during the debate. I said, okay, so O'Malley, he's hopefully going to go up. Not really.
No.
He's going to go up a little bit just because people are starting to kind of like, I mean, just with Joe Biden, everybody's going like, oh, please, Joe, run. I was so hoping he was going to run in, like right as they're announcing the candidates. If Joe Biden just,
And Joe Biden, like.
I'm here.
I'm looking at the polls now.
There was this very interesting CNN reporter was explaining how really like over dramatizing what would happen if Joe Biden came in. It's like right as the debate's starting, Air Force 2 starts whirring through the skies, coming to Las Vegas. Joe Biden steps out onto the tarmac, aviators on,
Drops him in.
Oh yeah.
Actually, come back to me in a second. The screen. Sorry, I just lost the
Technical
article.
difficulties, folks.
More about Joe Biden, though. I think Joe Biden, if he ran, he would be one of the only. I mean, Hillary has a decent chance, but I feel like Joe Biden would be one of the ones that would have a good
Joe
chance of
Biden
winning
is
the election.
doing amazing in the polls for a guy
Not
who
It has not even declared.
I'm just saying,
candidacy.
so Joe, unfortunately though, he is not exactly a gaffe-free person. in terms
No,
of
definitely
polls.
not.
So I think that's one of the main reasons he's holding off, because he knows the longer he's in the race, the more it's... But I think this is one of my issues where I feel people need to get more educated on the issues. I feel people are just going to be so upset that if he jumps in just like right before, because in national election he would win.
He would win.
Much better, yeah. But in terms of like Democratic, if he jumps in just before Hillary can solidify enough people to get the nomination, he could slide it out, and then he would just ride into the White House as long as he just minimized the number of speeches, I suppose.
That's true.
He's made a lot of gaffes.
Because basically with the media, they would,
Democrat.
if you want to avoid, I heard this quote, a very depressing quote, if you want to avoid criticisms, do nothing, say nothing, be nothing.
That's
what
true.
he thinks to do.
According to the Huffington Post polls, post the debate, 82% of Democrats believe that Clinton was the clear winner. Only 15%. Oh wait, sorry. I'm looking at two different things. But 52% of the people watching said that their view of Hillary Clinton improved post the debate. 42% said that their view of Sanders
Did improve?
Did improve.
We are starting to run out of time, so we may need to start to wrap this up a little
did
bit.
improve. Yeah, but I think the biggest takeaways from this was that Hillary solidified herself as a clear front runner.
I think
Bernie,
she did.
I think Bernie solidified the people, or not solidified. He reaffirmed his position, but I don't think he really.
With his base, nobody's going to leave his base, basically.
Yes, and I think he kind of restated and kind of told us again who he is. I don't think he made a big impression. Of course, Lincoln Chafee.
No.
He
most
killed.
of
Yeah, if anybody's going to drop out,
Yeah,
It's going to be Lincoln Chafee first.
Oh, yeah.
Webb was all right, and I
So
think
we're going to-
O'Malley was as well.
Okay, so Jack, I'll just ask you this because you've been very underrepresented.
Cool, yeah.
Well, we need to start to wrap this up. I guess we'll ask all of us, who do you think Hillary, if you had to pick, do you think Hillary will pick one of these four guys as one of her VP? If it is, who, or do you think she'll pick somebody else? Again, if it is, who, or if you just don't know.
I think that the only one out of those four that would be the most appealing to me that she would pick would probably be Martin O'Malley.
I
think
can see that happening.
I couldn't see her picking Lincoln Chafee.
No.
And God forbid she picks Jim Webb.
Jim Webb is too conservative, I would say, for her.
Yes.
And Bernie,
Bernie's
they're
a
just, that's
Democratic
that would be like
socialist.
George Bush and
Democratic
Donald Trump teaming up. There's just too much
I couldn't
backbone.
see it.
Too much.
Like politics all about freedom, but there's just he's the guy who
They wouldn't get
threatened
along.
her spot in the sun.
Yeah, and I agree with Jack. I think that I definitely think she'll. As long as Biden doesn't go in, I'm almost 100% sure that she'll get the nomination. And I think if she does, I think she'll go with Martin O'Malley.
I can say I could see her taking an outside person just to try to
Me too.
getting a young congressman
That's
to
true.
try to appeal to. Or if she wants somebody experienced who has at least name recognition.
Martin O'Malley.
You think any chance Joe Biden is going to be the first
I
person
could
to be
not
vice
see that
president under two
twice
different
in a row.
presidents? Has there
No.
not?
What if Bill
I don't
Clinton?
think so.
What if Bill Clinton was vice president?
He can't.
He can't because he's already ran for president twice.
Yeah.
It's against the Constitution.
I would love to see him be the first man.
Even the first man, though. That would be
He
kind
would
of
be
weird.
an amazing first man.
But Saxon
That's a terrible. Yeah.
Terrible.
I cannot. I
You actually
did
do it better
not
than I
do
do,
a
though.
good Bill Clinton. I did not do a good Bill Clinton. Yeah, I can't do it.
Do a good Obama impression.
I do try, but let's. We need to wrap up.
We do impressions all day.
Yeah. So it's been great having you on the show, Colin.
Thank you for having me.
Great guest
It was
host.
certainly a blast.
Jack, we screwed you over on this episode.
It's
so
okay.
sorry. Yeah, don't worry. Hopefully we'll try to cut this out so we can maximize Jack's time and
Mine's
include
screwed.
the
We'll
banter between us
Yeah.
later.
Yep.
You
All
cut
right.
out the major parts.
Yeah. All right. So I suppose let's wrap this up. Jack, would you like to read our Instagram followers?
Of course. Let me pull out the good old iPhone.
Yep. So we're doing that. So hopefully, unfortunately, Mike had to leave us. We're gonna try to have him on at a later date.
It'd be awesome to have him.
We would love to have Colin on at
Yeah,
any
definitely.
point in the future.
Yeah, I'd love to be. This is certainly Certainly worth it.
Very
Welcome to guest
illuminating.
hosts.
So yes, we have many possible guest hosts in the lineup, including we prefer not to mention people's
Name
names
them
before they
before, because
agree
then-
to doing it. But including for the first time somebody of the same gender as Hillary Clinton.
Really?
So, yeah. Yes, we did two actually.
I definitely don't know about that.
Yeah, me either.
Yes. Mhm.
All right.
The gender I'm referring to, of course, is no. I'm trying to.
Female?
I'm going to
Yeah, go out on one here.
just guessing. Female. So the camera's about to run out of battery, so let's just read these off.
Shout out to our Instagram followers. Oh God, Caleb Kiss Me More. I hope that's a legit follower of us.
Please.
This is so weird.
Sorry, guys. The video just, or the camera just died on us. We apologize. So, Jack, would you like to finish our Instagram followers?
Yes, of course.
Apologize. Comment below if you want to see your comments there. We apologize for not being as organized as we were. Was that your anybody who gave us a comment on a video? Or not on a video, on a
Yeah, I can definitely hit some people
page?
up.
Yes. We apologize for this. We will take care to keep our videos shorter in the future.
Shout
It was
out
very
to-
entertaining with Colin on the show here.
Definitely was. Thank you.
Yeah.
Shout out to N8.Alexander who commented on our video, and he sounds like a great guy. I'm pretty sure he was a viewer. SGHAZIL Sigazal. Who knows who that person is? Thanks.
Wonderful name.
Rick's Pistol who commented and liked. Thanks for you. And a touch of Timothy. Shout out to you.
Touch of Timothy.
And
Just a
shout out
touch.
to the typical
Just a touch.
liberal.
Not a pinch,
Just a
just
little
touch.
bit.
Typical liberal's pretty cool too. We'll give him a
Yeah.
shout out.
Please give us a shout out.
That's a pretty big group.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good fam.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, thank you.
Thanks for watching.
This is the Unnamed Political Podcast. I'm Clark Wahlberger.
I'm Jack Horvath.
I'm Colin Duran.
See you next time.